This is the most anti-democratic piece of legislation being put before this Parliament. I repeat it again, it is anti-democratic. It is against the values of this democracy, this Parliament, our constitutional sovereignty. It is against the principles of law and ethics. People willingly surrender their freedom in return for protection against some external threat. That's what I fear we are seeing now. Wake up, New Zealand.
I do have skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
I want to bookend this speech with the words from someone else who's far more eloquent than myself. He says, when human societies lose their freedom, it's not necessarily because tyrants have taken it away. It's usually because people willingly surrender their freedom in return for protection against some external threat. And that's what I fear we are seeing now. That's been said by Lord Sumption, the English Supreme Court Justice and Judge, discussing COVID-19 only a few days ago. I agree with Lord Sumption. This is the most anti-democratic piece of legislation being put before this Parliament. I repeat it again, it is anti-democratic. It is against the values of this democracy, this Parliament, our constitutional sovereignty. It is against the principles of law and ethics. I am pleased to stand on this side of the House as the only political party that has opposed this bill from the very start. I want the public to understand that very clearly. National alone has opposed this bill from the very beginning. And we are only here now because every other political party has supported it so far. Madam Speaker, why do I oppose this bill so aggressively? Let me, as I phrased in a video earlier today, what I term the terrible highlights. This is a bill which effectively gives one person enormous powers. One person. I don't actually particularly care who it is. In this case, it could be the Minister of Health or the Prime Minister. I suspect primarily the latter. I don't particularly care who it is. This is not a personal issue of who that person happens to be, but in any constitutional democracy which puts enormous powers into the hands of one person is by definition not democratic at all. These powers, Madam Speaker, will impact on New Zealanders' daily lives in ways I suspect they can barely comprehend. Why? Because it's been rushed through Parliament, but I'll come back to that. These decisions outlined in Section 11 give one person the power to say to ordinary New Zealanders where they can stay, who they can see, how they can physically distance, where they can travel, how they can carry out specialist activities. One person alone will be able to dictate to Kiwis how they'll be isolated and quarantined. They will have the power to dictate to you your place, premise, craft, vehicles, even your animals, how you or we as Kiwis can operate. These powers are enormous and they are being concentrated in one hand. That is wrong, ethically, morally, and legally. This bill enables the police to enter a home without a warrant. Madam Speaker, the police have never held that power at all. They have never held that power. And this bill enables police just on reasonable cause to enter into your home. I would suggest even worse than that, that this bill creates a provision for enforcement officers. I prefer to think of them as state-sanctioned vigilantes. These are people who will be authorised through this bill, not police, to enforce the purposes of this Act. They are people who will be able to effectively be reporting on what we as citizens or business owners or people who wish to go to, I don't know, church or to play sport. They will have the power to not only watch and report on what you do, but to shut you down. Once again, this bill, this terrible highlight, is allowing state-sanctioned vigilantes. And I see it very similar to what was attempted to happen, well, it wasn't attempted, it was happening with those checkpoints of which the government seemed to be completely confused about, completely wrong, completely illegal. Also, we are seeing through this bill what I have often spoken to as the draconian and heartless rules that have been put in place around funerals and tangi, weddings and other religious services. It is inconsistent, and it's one of the things that annoys myself as a student of philosophy and as a parliamentarian, is inconsistency. And why it's important is that any time the public can see inconsistency, they know something wrong is happening. And is it today? We've had a slight change from the government that you can have up to 50 people now at a funeral. That is a good step forward. I do want to acknowledge that. But it also shows the incredible muddle which has been created here. Up to 50 people can attend a funeral. Fewer than 10 are allowed to attend any other religious ceremony, act of worship in their temple, their mosque, their church, wherever. But up to 100 people, as I pointed out in question time today, can attend the cinema. They can play rugby together. 30 people can roll around in the mud. That's all perfectly legal. But less than 10 people are allowed to go and practice their faith safely. It is absolutely inconsistent, it's draconian, and it's heartless. But I do want to say, as I said, I do want to acknowledge, I think particularly and exclusively around tangi, the government's announcement today that it's going to 50 people is a good one. And I want to say thank you to the thousands of New Zealanders who have replied to my petition in the last 24 hours. Thank you for the pressure that you've put on. New Zealanders understand the voice you have, and we will continue to push against, as I say, these heartless rules. Because as it stands now with the changes, you literally have to be dying to go to church to be allowed in. I want to point out too that this law exists for 2 years. 2 years. And even worse, I'm not sure anyone's touched on this, even worse, this bill gives Cabinet the power to repeal. Cabinet, not the Parliament. That is unconstitutional. Absolutely appalling. And it's all been rushed, Mr. Speaker, through Parliament. No select committee at all. They've had almost 7 weeks, Mr. Speaker, to work on this. It's been rushed through. It is, as I have said, contemptuous, effectively, of the basics of a democracy, and particularly when we begin to think around the notions of grieving, celebration and faith, I think it's been contemptible. Why do I say it's been contemptible? The legal advice that was put out around this bill which has the power to limit people's freedom of religion, is not mentioned at all. I would suggest that is deliberate. I think that reflects a left-wing government view of religion and people of faith. It is the only logical explanation I can find, other than absolute bloody incompetence on behalf of officials to miss out freedom of religion from the list. They've got everything else, but not freedom of religion. Why is that? An absolute shocker. As I say, we've got a real problem. My final thoughts, though, because we have heard from the other side that this is absolutely necessary. We have to pass this. Thousands will die. That is blackmail. That is a bribe. That is using fear to control New Zealanders. No one in this House wants more people to die. What we're asking for, and as I've written about recently, is about proportionality. And to come in with paternalistic moralising that somehow if we don't give over these enormous powers to one person in government, then somehow everything's going to go wrong. That is not what we're suggesting. And I want to repeat again, to suggest that, well, to use fear effectively as what's been done is a blackmail of a sort, a bribe. It's emotionalism over reason. And this continues to be demonstrated when there is engagement and questions in this House. Questions are asked of government. They are rational, they are reasonable. They don't have to be agreed to, but all we get is emotional responses. That is not helpful. And what are those responses? It's the tired, old, emotive, this is hurting me more than it hurts you. And speeches throughout this day, as we've rushed it through Parliament, or rather the government has been very much that moralising. This bill, this enormous power we're getting, this hurts us. We don't really want it, but it hurts us to take it. But we know it's hurting you too, but just accept that. That is That is wrong. New Zealanders need to be treated as adults. Because I want to put this warning out, because history is very clear about this. You treat adults in a democracy responsibly. You allow them proportionally to take back their lives. Because I put this warning there now, if we don't give it to them, they'll take it back. I want to end as I began. When human societies lose their freedom, it's not usually because tyrants have taken it away. It's usually because people willingly surrender their freedom in return for protection against some external threat. That's what I fear we are seeing now. Wake up, New Zealand.
COVID-19 Public Health Response Bill. Section 11. Orders that can be made under this Act. 1. An order made by the Minister or the Director General, as the case may be, under this section may do one or more of the following things. A. Require persons to refrain from taking any actions that contribute or are likely to contribute to the risk of the outbreak or spread of COVID-19, or require persons to take any actions, or comply with any measures, that contribute or are likely to contribute to preventing the risk of the outbreak or spread of COVID-19, including, without limitation, requiring persons to do any of the following. I. Stay in any specified place or refrain from going to any specified place. 2. Refrain from associating with specified persons. 3. Stay physically distant from any persons in any specified way. 4. Refrain from traveling to or from any specified area. V. Refrain from carrying out specified activities, for example, business activities involving close personal contact, or require specified activities to be carried out only in any specified way or in compliance with specified measures. 6. Be isolated or quarantined in any specified place. Require persons to refrain from taking any actions that contribute or are likely to contribute to the risk of the outbreak or spread of COVID-19, or require persons to take any actions, or comply with any measures, that contribute or are likely to contribute to preventing the risk of the outbreak or spread of COVID-19, including, without limitation, requiring persons to do any of the following. I. Stay in any specified place or refrain from going to any specified place. 2.
Breaches your freedom of movement.
Refrain from associating with specified persons. 3.
Breaches you from freedom of association.
Stay physically distant from any persons in any specified way. 4. Refrain from traveling to or from any specified area. V.
Again, you have the right to travel.
Refrain from carrying out specified activities, for example, business activities involving close personal contact, or require specified activities to be carried out only in any specified way or in compliance with specified measures. 6.
Now, notice the wording here, people. There is what they're talking about, actions and measures. They're not saying that you have to follow order, or that you have to follow, it's an offence to do something. No, this is the section that they use to define it. So now they're going to have to define what they mean by take any actions or measures. Not to forget, you're also presumed innocent until proven guilty, unless they take that one away as well from you. So it would be for them to prove every element of their allegation if they want to charge you with some offence. Bear that in mind. Back to number 5.
Be isolated or quarantined in any specified place or in any specified way. 7.
Again, that breaches your freedom of movement, and you're also free from any ill treatment or medical treatment.
Refrain from participating in gatherings of any specified kind, in any specified
place or in specified circumstances. As the ministers just said, You can go and play rugby and roll around with 30 other men on a field and get completely fine, but you can't have 10 people at a funeral. What the fuck?
Place, or in specified circumstances. 8. Report for medical examination or testing in any specified way or in any specified circumstances.
Report? What, so we're all kids now that have to report? Go fuck yourself. I will not be reporting for any medical examination because I have the right to not undergo any medical treatment or examination. Suck my balls to that one.
B. In relation to any places, premises, crafts, vehicles, animals, or other things, require actions to be taken, require compliance with any measures, or impose prohibitions that contribute or are likely to contribute to preventing the risk of the outbreak or spread of COVID-19, including.
And how are they going to prove that you contributed or helped the outbreak happen? The outbreak's already happened. Does it happen multiple times? Are there multiple outbreaks, or is it all just the one thing? I mean, be specific, people. Politicians have supposedly read this, even though they're passing laws that they don't even read and then admit it. So they're rubber stamping shit. They're not doing their job that you all elected them to do. But it's not an election, it's a selection.
Without limitation, any of the following. I. Require things to be closed or only open if specified measures are complied with. 2. Prohibit things from entering any port or place, or permit the entry of things into any port or place only if specified measures are complied with. 3.
So they're telling me I can't bring something into my place? Go fuck yourself again.
Prohibit gatherings of any specified kind in any specified places or premises, or in any.
You have the right to gather, you have the right to associate, and you damn well have the right to protest. Let's not forget that, people. It's going on right now in Aotea Square as I speak.
Specified circumstances. 4. Require things to be isolated, quarantined, or disinfected in any specified way or specified circumstances. V. Require the testing of things in any specified way or specified circumstances.
Okay, I would like to require all politicians to be at least tested for their ability to actually understand and read what they're passing.
2. An order made by the Minister may specify which breaches of an order made by the Minister or the Director General are infringement offences for the purposes of Section 25(3).
Haven't read 25(3), but I'm sure that's just so they can make things criminal offences. So an order made by the Minister may specify which breaches of an order made by the Minister or Director. So one or two people, so one or two dictators, make an order and they decide whether it's an infringement. Now notice it's an infringement offence. Over here we have what's called strict liability offences. You might think that you're naturally guilty of those things. Well, I've gone to the court in 2018 and 19 over a stationary speed camera ticket and a parking ticket, which are both statutory or strict liability offences, and won. So, and the main point is that they couldn't prove the elements of their allegations against me. They kept asking me, was I the driver, trying to get you to confess. It's not your job to help the prosecution in any way, shape or form. It is your job, if you're acting as a defendant, to ask questions and don't stop. Anyway guys, my little spiel there. As I've said, I hope you, I don't usually agree with many politicians, but O'Connor did a good job. I'll see you later.